Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mana Burn. This is Steve, and today I'm bringing you a deck tech for Silas Renn Seeker Adept and Akiri Line Slinger. So this is a deck for another customer of mine that we built. He asked for these two to be his commanders and asked for it to be an ultra competitive deck. So this deck is very aggressive. And it's got a really good theme to it. So we'll go through here and we'll explain it. And there's definitely a couple of combos in here. So we'll explain each of those and the win cons. So first off, let's go with Silas Renn. The win cons really don't have a lot to do with the commanders. I'm not gonna lie. But the colors are perfect. So Silas Renn Seeker Adept, 1 blue black for a 2/2 with Death Touch. When he deals combat damage to a player, choose target artifact card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. Okay, cool. And then Akiri is a red white for 0/3 first strike vigilance, and it gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. So obviously a lot of artifacts in the deck, tons of mana rocks. So one thing that's going to be very interesting about this deck that everybody's going to be able to see is right here. This is all of our land and artifacts or mana rocks. So I'm not going to go through every single one of them. Now, obviously, we have all the fetch lands in here. We've got Maze of Ith, Ancient Tomb. Something that you'll notice about this deck, as far as the land goes, the biggest thing to describe, they are all different. There is no card with the same name. The entire deck is that way, obviously. So we've got Wasteland back here. We got Marsh Flats, Scalding Tarn. It's somewhere in here. Arid Mesa, Scalding Tarn. So we've got all the big lands, everything but dual lands, basically, which, you know, we could throw dual lands in here and take out some of these islands and swamps, but very good mana base. We have 36 lands in the deck. Also today, just so everybody knows, I am trying out a new camera stand, so I hope that this is not too bad. Let me know. Leave me a couple of comments. Let me know how the video quality turns out. Everything looks good so far, but I just want to make sure there's no issues. So here we go with our mana rocks. I'm not going to go through every single one of them, but we have all the talismans in here. The talismans are all pretty much the same. You can tap it for colorless mana, or you can tap it for white or blue, or any color. So you got black, red, red, white, black, blue, and you can tap it for a colorless mana and does 1 damage to you. So they're all the same. We also have a Signet, Mishra's Bauble. Mishra's Bauble is basically a card draw. You sacrifice it, look at the top card of target player's library, draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's end step. So, and then obviously Soul Ring, Arcane Signet for 2 mana. You can add any color you want. Mox Amber and Chromatic Lantern. So Chromatic Lantern, 3 colorless lands you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color, and also Chromatic Lantern taps for 1 mana of any color. So that's our mana base. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through that, but like I said, every single card is different. So that is a key to the deck. So let's get into the overall scheme of this thing. The scheme of this deck is to tutor out your win cons and win the game. So we've got 5 tutors and then tons of card draw. So we'll go through our tutors. Obviously, we've got Demonic Tutor, nice revised Demonic Tutor here. Enlightened Tutor, so you can search for an artifact or an enchantment. Mystical Tutor lets you find an instant interrupt mana source or sorcery. Diabolic Tutor and Trinket Mage. Trinket Mage is a creature, and when it enters the battlefield, you search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost 1 or less. Reveal it, put it in your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. So Trinket Mage is basically just going through, again, just trying to get you an artifact out. You can go through, get a whole bunch of different things. Soul Ring, Mox, Shadow Spears in here. So there's there's probably like 4 or 5 that are 1 or less. that you can go get. Next, we have all of our card draw. And card draw is important because we're going to try to win this game by milling ourselves out. So we want to have as many cards in our graveyard or exiled as we possibly can. So we've got Phyrexian Arena, which is at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card, lose a life. Rhystic Study, whenever an opponent plays a spell, you draw a card unless they pay one colorless. Karn, this one's good. Scion of Urza, you're going to reveal the top 2 cards of your library. An opponent chooses one, put one into your hand, and exile the other one with a counter on it. -1, you take the card from exile and put it into your hand. -2 is you create a construct artifact creature token that gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. And with all these mana rocks, plus the ones you're going to see in here, there's actually 22 total artifacts. So you do have a chance to win with your commanders with all the artifacts that you have. Chandra, Torch of Defiance. Exile the top card of your library. You may cast that card, and if you don't, Chandra deals 2 damage to each opponent. So it helps you get rid of a card if you want every turn. You can also add 2 red mana to your mana pool. And then for -3, deals 4 damage to a creature, so you have some control there. And -7, whenever you get an emblem that whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to target creature or player. So another way to kill off some creatures. Also player removal. Teferi Time Raveler, each opponent can only cast spells when they can cast a sorcery, so everything's basically done in their turn. You slow everything down. +1, you may cast sorcery spells that had flash until your next turn. -3, you can return an artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand, draw a card. So again, the card draw is nice. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. Draw a card, and at the beginning of your end step, untap 2 lands. -3 is you can put a target non-land permanent into its owner's hand, library, third from the top. And you get an emblem for -8. Whenever you draw a card, exile a permanent. An opponent control. Sorry about that. Drop the card. Baleful Strix is a black and a blue for a 1/1 flyer with Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Urza's Lord High Artificer. Again, when it enters the battlefield, you create a 0/0 colorless artifact creature token. That creature token gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. And you can tap any artifact for blue mana. And then -5 is shuffle your library, then exile the top card. And until the end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So once this is on the board and you don't have anything else going on, it's awesome. You pay 5 and, see what you end up with. Hedron Crab. This is great to try to get out as early as you can. Landfall, whenever land enters the battlefield, target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his graveyard. And obviously, since you want to mill yourself, that is something you can obviously look at disrupting another player, or you can look at getting rid of some of your cards. So Ponder, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but Ponder, again, look at the top 3 cards, draw a card, or you can put the 3 cards back in any order, shuffle your library, then draw a card. Preordained, scry 2, then draw a card. Emery, Lurker of the Lot. This spell costs 1 less for each artifact you control, and when it enters the battlefield, put the top 4 cards of your library in your graveyard. And the ability here is you can tap, choose an artifact card in your graveyard, and you may cast it this turn. Future Sight, play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play, and you can cast the top card of your library. Narset, part of reveals each opponent can't draw more than 1 card. And for -2, you get to look at the top 4 cards of your library, reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them, and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. So, again, and then Brainstorm, draw 3 cards, put 2 cards on top of your library in any order. So those are all the draw effects that we have in here. And so these with the tutor effects, you're looking at about 20 cards. Actually, I think it's 17 whenever I did the math earlier, but that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 plus 5 tutors. So you've got 20 cards in the deck that are going to help you either tutor and draw. Next is going to be a bunch of cards to help you control the board. Merciless Eviction, choose 1. So you can get rid of all artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or planeswalkers. And as you saw, we only have about 5 creatures in the deck. So it's really it'll help you out with that as well. So I think actually at the end of the day, including the commanders, I think there might be 7 creatures, but whatever. But okay, so choose one, destroy them. Nicol Bolus, my favorite planeswalker. +3, destroy target permanent. -2, gain control of a permanent. -9, Nicol Bolus deals 7 damage to target player. That player discards 7 cards and sacks 7 permanents. What an awesome card. As soon as he hits the board, you're able to get him up to 8. Pretty hard to kill him all in one turn, so it's an awesome card. But if you're having a little bit of trouble with a specific item or card, you can just gain control of that creature. Toxic Deluge, you can pay some life, and all creatures die. Pendril Miss, each creature gains during your upkeep, pay 1 colorless and bury the creature. Awesome card. Vindicate, destroy target permanent. Austere Command, again, you get to pick 2 of these actually, so you can destroy all creatures converted mana cost 3 or less, all creatures converted mana cost 4 or more, and then, or you could do all enchantments or all artifacts, so you get to choose 2. Swords to Plowshares, exile target creature. Its controller gains life to its power. Terminus, for 6 mana, put all creatures on bottom of their owner's library. Or Miracle, if you draw it for your first card, you can pay it for 1 white to do the same effect. Cleansing Nova, destroy all creatures, or you can destroy all artifacts and enchantments. Daretti. Daretti is awesome. So it's +1, put a 1/1 construct artifact creature token with Defender onto the battlefield. -1, sack an artifact to destroy an artifact or creature. And -6, choose an artifact card in a graveyard or battlefield and put 3 tokens that are copies of it. So awesome -6 ability. Imagine you can have out a few extra lands, a few extra soul rings or something like that to help you cast your spells. And then Lightning Helix does 3 damage to target creature or player, and you gain 3 life. Something I didn't put in here is I did not put any of the Pillow Fort in here because I didn't want to have a ton of enchantments. By Pillow Fort, I mean you could, if you wanted to, you could throw in a Ghostly Prison or Propaganda in order to help slow down your opponents as well, if you feel that that's the kind of way your game is going. Or if that's the play group that you have. So you can definitely change that around and add a couple of cards in there. So next we have a few more artifacts. We have a couple more spot removal cards. We have Fatal Push, Galvanic Blast, Lightning Bolt, Flame Slash. So again, some more spot removal there. Now Pithy Needle. When it enters the battlefield, activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So awesome card. You're going up against a commander that's that might be a little too strong, that has an activated ability. Pithy Needle slows that right down. Spellskite, 0/4 for 1 blue or 2 life. You can change the target or change a target of target spell or ability is Spellskite. So if somebody's trying to lightning bolt one of your creatures or you or something to try to kill you, you can always just have it sent to him. Winter Orb, no player may untap more than 1 land during his or her untap phase. So our average CMC in this deck is actually, I believe it's like 3. I think it's actually less than 3. Looking through, I know we've got a couple of big ones, 5 and 6, but let me double check this real quick. Actually, our average CMC is 2.5. So for us, having the lands in play is great because they all have different names, which they need to have. But having all of our artifacts that have, Soul Ring, all the talismans, all of the, Chromatic Lantern, Arcane Signet. We have plenty of mana, so awesome card to help slow down the game. Tangle Wire. A lot of people might not know what this is. So Tangle Wire is 3 colorless. It's an artifact. Fading 4. This artifact comes into play with 4 fade counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a counter. And if you can't, sacrifice it. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player taps an untapped artifact, creature, or land he or she controls for each fade counter on Tangle Wire. So you play this during your main phase. Now, the fading count doesn't go off until your upkeep. So that means that the next turn, At the next, your opponent's upkeep, they're all tapping 4 things. So it's really slowing the game down for you to be able to get where you need to get. Mind Crank, whenever an opponent loses life, that player puts that many cards from the top of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So this is in here. People might be asking, why would you put that in there? For a few reasons. One, it's an artifact. 2, if you are using your commanders here to swing in for damage, especially Akiri with first strike, and you have, let's say, 10, 12 artifacts out, then that person's milling themselves for 10, 12 cards every time an Akiri hits them if they don't block. Same thing with Silas. Yes, there aren't a lot of creatures. However, this can really do some work in the long run. However, if you wanted to put a propaganda or a ghostly prison in, I could see, getting rid of Mind Crank. But again, does serve quite a few purposes. Next is Engineer Explosive. Sunburst. This enters the battlefield with a charge counter for each color of mana spent to cast it. Now you can tap 2 and sacrifice Engineered Explosives to destroy each non-land permanent with the converted mana cost equal to the number of counters on it. So a nice little board wipe. You can also throw in a Neville Meyer's Disc if you wanted to. But because, I'm sorry, Neville Meyer's Disc or, I'm drawing a blank. O-Stone, Oblivion Stone you could throw in there as well if you wanted to. Next we have Shadow Spear. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. It has Trample Lifelink. But again, the main thing is 1 colorless. Permanents your opponent's control lose hexproof and they lose indestructible until the end of turn. So you equip this with Akiri or Silas and you're in good shape. Lightning Greaves help you to protect your commander. Umezawa's Jitte. Whenever your equipped creature deals combat damage, put 2 charge counters on Umezawa's Jitte. Remove a counter, and equipped creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn, or target creature gets -1/-1 until the end of turn, or you gain 2 life. So again, another way to help out with your commanders, beef them up. Same thing with Darksteel Plate. Darksteel Plate is indestructible, and your equipped creature is indestructible as well. Torpor Orb. Now, the ability, you might say, oh wait, but we have a couple. We only have 3 creatures that have ETB abilities or entering the battlefield abilities. So this is a great card. For creatures entering the battlefield, don't cause abilities to trigger. There's so many new legendary creatures out now that's all anybody wants to do is enter the battlefield, and I get 6 different effects and everything else. So again, this is the these last 4 cards here are going to be the main way that we need to win the game. Now we're going to need one of these on the board. We're going to need Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, to be out on the board. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. +1, target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into the graveyard, and you get to draw a card. -8, draw 7 cards, then if your library is empty, you win the game. So again, his ability is more or less for the +1. You can mill yourself for 2 and draw cards. So every time you +1 them, you're getting rid of 3 cards. And then the -8 is obviously going to draw 7. Of course, next is Laboratory Maniac. This is the other reason. This is the other card you want your Lightning Greaves for, or your Destructible, or your Darksteel Plate. So this is the creature that we need to protect the most. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. And now a couple of just fun cards. These cards are awesome. So we have Demonic Consultation. This is from Ice Age. So 1 black mana for an instant. I'm going to move this up a little bit so everybody can kind of read it. So Demonic Consultation. Name a card and remove the top 6 cards of your library from the game and reveal the next card to all players. If it is the card named, put into your hand. If not, remove that card from the game and continue revealing the top card of the library and removing it from the game until the named card appears. So basically, this is a win. So you have Laboratory Maniac or Jace, Wielder of Secrets out on the battlefield already. And I don't know, let's say you have Torpor Orb in your hand. Doesn't really matter. You cast Demonic Consultation. You name Torpor Orb. Now you're going to go through your entire deck. You're never going to find the card. And by not finding the card, you're going to draw yourself out. When you go to draw your last card, you win. Pretty self-explanatory there. And now we have Tainted Pact. Tainted Pact is from Odyssey. Excuse me, I had to get a drink of soda there. Tainted Pact, so it's a colorless and a black. And remove the top card of your library from the game. You may put that card into your hand unless it has the same name as another card removed this way. Repeat this process until you would put a card into your hand or remove 2 cards with the same name, whichever comes first. Again, name a card that's in your hand or on the battlefield or whatever, because there's no chance of you having 2 of the same thing. Even if you named Island, there's only 1 island in the entire deck. There's a snow-covered island. There's a few different things, but they don't have the same names. So these 4 cards are going to be ultimately your win cons. You need just 2 of them in any combination, obviously. So one of these 2 with Demonic Consultation or one of these 2 with Tainted Pact. Because these are both instants, you can go through and get them with your Mystical Tutor. We don't have a way to fetch planeswalkers or creatures. That's why I put in a Diabolic Tutor as well as a Demonic Tutor. Obviously, we're going to put the Demonic Tutor in any deck that's got black. The Diabolic is in there because we don't have any green, so there's no way to get a Worldly Tutor or anything else like that. So, but this is the nastiness of the deck. The first time you play this, you can just, if you get the right draw, I mean, obviously the perfect draw is going to be to draw one of these, this would be the perfect opening hand. These 2 cards, and then get any 3 lands on the battlefield. Turn 3, you drop Laboratory Maniac. Let's say it goes really slow. Turn 3, you drop Laboratory Maniac. Turn 4, you play Demonic Consultation, game over. It's literally that easy to win the game. Same thing, if you had Tainted Pact in your hand with any combination. So, if you could draw one of your tutors or something in your opening hand, but if you could draw one of these 4 cards in your first 7, or by your second turn with one of your tutors, you're pretty much going to be able to win this within turn 5, turn 6. It is a very expensive deck. Like I said, there are a couple of changes. That's the other reason why I didn't put in Ghostly Prison. That's why I didn't put in Propaganda, because with the right draw in the right game, you're going to be able to win so quick. But if it does go long term, that's also why I put a lot of creatures in here. I'm sorry, not a lot of creatures, a lot of artifacts to bust, to pump up your commanders. Low casting cost, so if you had to cast them multiple times, you have, 10 mana rocks and 36 lands, so you have plenty of mana in order to recast them as much as possible if you need to. There's a ton of spot removal as well. So again, this was a ton of fun to make, and I want to thank you, send a shout out and thank you to my customer Paolo for letting me build this deck for him. I also built a mono red Kari Zev deck. Not as competitive. He didn't want us to go too crazy with it, or me, I should say, to go too crazy with it, so I didn't. I kept it pretty basic. This deck here, this Akiri Silas deck is about 92 to 94, 95% competitive. There are a couple of tweaks that you could make to bump it up. Again, you could get rid of the regular basic lands and throw in the 4 dual lands that would fit in here. Well, actually, there's more than 4. Shit, no, there's 4. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of options. So, anyways, that's our deck for today. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Leave any questions or comments about the deck below, and let me know how the camera worked out. It's a new one I'm trying out, and it looks like it's been shaking a little bit, so hopefully that hasn't messed up too much of the video. And thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.